What up, everybody? It's another crazy week with the Ross the Boss Show. We got Trump getting vindicated on a lot of different things. We got an awesome compilation to show you guys in a little bit. Just a reminder of what some of the stuff we've been through the last 4 years, 6 years, I guess, of craziness. We got talks about how to be a Christian in these times, and we got some talks about Maui. Stick around. Do you think these real estate tycoons, like the chick that's on Shark Tank?
Okay. Yeah.
Barbara something?
Yeah.
Right? The chick that's on Shark Tank, and not Trump and all them, but like it seems like there's a lot of real estate tycoons that just got stupid wealthy doing real estate.
Yeah.
And only like real estate seems to float with the market. So that way, you know, it's almost like if you have money, you're a bitch. But if you have property, you float with wherever the bobber is type of thing.
That's true. But you also have to hang on for the ride when it does crash.
Right. You got to have reserves.
Right. Like if you're 80, let's just say like you're 82, right? And you have this plot of land that you bought when you're like 20 and like, I don't know, it's close to some metropolis like Nashville. I don't know why I'm saying Tennessee, but Tennessee, Nashville or something like that. And it has appreciated significantly. But you need it when it's at its highest appreciation value. Then the market crashes and it's not going to recover. You should take some good like 5 years, you know, to really recover. You're 82. You need that money.
Yeah.
That's who kind of really suffers when those housing market crashes, and then they finally just like give in, sell it at a lower rate. But they needed the top money because inflation. They needed that top number to survive. You see what I mean?
Right.
And now, but it crashed, even though it's more than what he bought when he was 20. Bread was 25 cents a loaf when he was 20.
Right.
You know what I mean? So, yeah, that's who it really hurts the most.
Yeah,
people
I wonder,
in that timeline.
But I wonder, like, if
it will always be valuable.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, because they're not making any more of it. Like,
right.
There's only a certain amount of land. So, like, if it hasn't been developed yet, you're dumb if you don't buy some.
Right.
Well, so that's been, like, this battle right now as we're just trying to get our ducks in a row as far as, like, what do we actually want to get? And it's like, well, if you want to be really smart, you know, because everything's a convenience fee, right? Think about it. You could buy a 2007 Toyota Sequoia, right? Or you can buy a 2012 Toyota Sequoia or a 2023 Toyota Sequoia, whatever, right? You spend more money, you get a better thing.
Okay.
That's a true thing, right? Well, life is also like that. How annoying is it to paint your own toenails and fingernails? It's kind of annoying, right?
Right.
And if you had a lot of money, $30 for that's not a big deal. You know, you're like, okay, that's worth it to me, right? And especially if you got some chaos going on in other parts of your life, and you just want one thing to be decent. You're like, you know what, that's worth it. Why don't we DoorDash? Actually, we're gonna stay at home one time this week, and we're just gonna order in. I don't care what it costs. I just want to relax and enjoy you guys, right? So you have kind of that balance of like you're paying for something versus what you're getting for it. And I've been going through this lately because I'm making a lot more money now with the different things that I'm doing with Ross Bennett Consulting and other types of things. And I'm like, okay, this is getting to the point where I'm starting to think to myself, some things are worth paying for, right?
Okay. Some
things are worth paying extra for, right?
True.
DoorDash the other day was one that was worth paying extra for, you know, and I DoorDash other people a lot of times. But in my past life, 10 years ago, if you'd asked me if I DoorDashed, my response would have been like, no. You know what I'm saying? That's like you're just.
I'm at that.
Yeah, you just freaking losing money?
Well, I was going to say, even the like discount, sign up now. And
yeah,
get
it's not
this.
a real discount. Yeah, you're paying 20% more for everything you get at the restaurant anyway. The pizza is $10 if you're in person, and it's $13.27 if you buy it off DoorDash.
Right.
And then they also charge you a delivery fee.
Right.
And a tip.
And then like.
And a miscellaneous random
those
fees.
weird processing fees.
Right.
Yeah, and every restaurant is different. Like, why is it this much here and that much there? Yeah, I didn't even like it when I got the discount, I'll be honest.
Well, so that's fair. That's fair, right? Because some things don't cut it, right? My dad, dude, I grew up working with my dad all day long to make $20. That was what I got when I was a kid. I'd mow grass for like 8 hours with my dad and make $20, you know, or I'd help him cut old AC units to get the copper out of them, and we all take it to the junkyard together and get tin. You know, I grew up collecting cans with my dad,
right?
You know, and we'd take it to the junkyard, and we'd all, you know, make $110 or something, you know, whatever it was, and my dad would give me a 20. I'm gonna give my brother a 20. and he'd keep the
Hey, that's
rest.
pretty good money when
And-
you're a kid, though. You're
Yeah,
like, oh
well,
my God.
well, I just remember thinking like, oh man, this is 20, right? But like that's how frugal we were as a family. We were not growing. I didn't grow up with a spoon in my mouth that was pretty,
Same.
and so that kind of made me always feel a certain way. And then whenever we'd ask Dad for money, you know, he would pinch it. He'd have a $5 bill. Dad, it's $5 for a thing.
And it's hard to let go. My dad would go like this.
Yeah, yes.
And I'm like, it's a field trip and I have to go for the grade, Dad.
That's right. I'm like, Dad, come on, we're all going to the skating ring for
Mandatory
school.
field trip. No, this is for me. It was mandatory field trip, Dad. Seriously, I need the 5.
Yeah,
And please sign here.
yeah. Well, yeah. My dad would. He'd look at you and then he'd look down at his wallet and he'd go,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
you know, and he's,
oh my God.
and he wasn't even trying to
Wow.
like put on a role.
No matter
he was
what
actually
culture,
stressed.
No matter what culture.
The dad's
a
the
freaking
same.
Cuban from the island itself, and you're American. That is so funny. My dad did the same thing. Oh my gosh.
And then he'd hand it to me and he'd pinch. Man, he would pinch the life out of that thing to make sure that there wasn't 2 bills there. He pinched that bastard, you know. And then like, all right, thanks, man. I had to take it from whatever. But I grew up like that. Well, but there's certain things where I'm starting to think to myself, there's a cost, risk, or whatever the heck you want to call it, benefit analysis. And so one of those things is like, I could buy with $350,000 one heck of a property,
Right.
with a trash hole house. I mean, like worse than a trailer.
Right.
Right. And that would be a smart, frugal thing to me to do. The same thing is like going to pick up the pizza myself on a discount day rather
Right.
than doing DoorDash, right? But what suffers? What suffers when you
Your
do
time,
that
your
is
energy,
your
'cause you're gonna
time,
have
your
to.
energy,
Yeah, yeah.
your quality of life, your
yeah.
thought pattern, your peace. And in my case, my wife's sanity, my kids' ability to grow up and say, I have a home rather than I had to live in a rental that I couldn't go dig up the backyard like I wanted to, type of thing, which isn't a massive cost comparatively to other people. But
Yeah, I
it's
was
the
gonna say.
growing up that I had, though. I had the growing up of I used to climb the same exact tree every single day. I
Right.
had the upbringing where I used to make bike jumps in my front yard in the same spot every single day. And there's like a currency emotionally that comes with that, to be like, I've got experiences in this physical place and I want to provide that for my kids. So I'm like, well, that's good.
Showing them a little bit of hardship, though, isn't a bad thing either. I mean, we were homeless after Hurricane Andrew because, I mean, it destroyed everything, and FEMA just was, nobody thought it was going to be that bad.
You know what? You're right.
And,
Fuck
like-
these kids. That's
No,
it,
I'm
bitches.
just saying.
On the street.
I'm just saying, if they have like a basic roof over their head, you still have a working refrigerator, and there's like, yeah, it might be uncomfortable for a while. Or if, like you said, you rent or go stay with family for a little while, it's uncomfortable for a little while. But then the reward is like, oh, okay. You know what I mean?
Right.
Just to show it's okay. Sometimes you will go through hardships in life, and it's kind of like better when they're younger, so they can say, "Oh, okay, this is uncomfortable, but okay, I'm gonna cope with it." There's gonna obviously be bumps, and you're gonna teach them how to cope with it properly because obviously they're
Right.
gonna have a hard time.
The goal
But
is
then
that you
they'll
get
have
good at
that,
navigating.
right, at a younger age versus everything going smoothly and perfectly because mom and dad didn't want you to go through the same things, which, because the reason why I'm saying that, I find myself doing the same thing to my son, and I stop myself and I'm like, no,
Yeah, let the world
him
hit him.
struggle a little bit with
Yeah.
this particular thing, even though you love him so much, because
But it only hurts him.
it hurts them a little bit. And then if
It's
they're
the mother
22,
hen. It's the mother hen
yes,
grooming her kid so much that she's plucking out his actual feathers.
That's what I'm
It's
saying.
ideal for kids to be poor, I think, is when they're little. It's fun, it's like a lad.
Yes.
Oh, you gotta go run and grab that from that guy, or they can make up games in their imagination.
We have to play with rocks because we
Yeah.
don't have a TV.
Yeah, well, it makes you more satisfied in your
other things.
Your expectations determine gratitude, bro. And if you grew up with a nice life, you're gonna expect a nice life. And if you
Right.
grew up with a shit life, then you are thrilled
Yes.
when you paid your electricity on time.
No, I agree. I mean,
That's why that's sad. I think intergenerational wealth is lost within like 2 to 3 generations max. When like one parent or parents make a lot of money, their children kind of get it and they do okay, and then the next generation ends up like running at a net loss, and then by the next generation, statistically, they're poor or just average again because the generations that grow up without that being instilled in them and all that, they just end up losing like whatever trust fund it is.
Yes, I agree. And because
Yeah.
there's no work behind it, they didn't struggle. So it's like, they'll squander that money because they were never used to having to manage it.
Yeah, or just they didn't go through the character development expectations and kind of rigor that you had to do in order to generate that kind of revenue.
In the first
Because it
place,
all comes
right.
down to discipline, you know,
Right.
in different various forms, right? And so, like, if you don't have it, then you're going to biff it. And you're not going to care about why your great-great-grandfather started this thing unless you have some weird loyalty to something, which is how all these, like, blood cults do it with their families. You know,
Yeah.
they have, like, such strict and crazy, like, allegiances to, you know,
Oh, that's
really
like,
weird
that's
shit
like brainwashing.
that
yeah,
you can't
that's-
even escape it because they have too much dirt on you. You will behave the same way your parents and parents did and all that stuff. And
Yeah.
I don't know that they're all like, if you imagine Chelsea Clinton, like, does she strive for greatness the same way that Hillary Clinton does? And by greatness, I mean, does she
Ultimate
strive to
power?
be powerful? You know. I don't know
they're
about
both
that.
just
Do you think
disingenuous.
Donald
Have you
Trump's kids strive as hard as he does? I don't think so. Do you think their kids will? Maybe. I don't know. Like, I don't know how this works. I've yet to see a young person that I feel like outworks some of the old cats that I know in the industries. You know what I'm saying?
good
Like,
point.
I
That's a
just
good
I don't feel like I know those
don't
people.
know.
I don't feel
Don
like I've seen
Jr.
them that much.
Don Jr. really hustles just on all fronts, really. The Don Jr. that has the dark hair. I thought there was another one named Don. I don't
Eric.
know. Oh, Eric. Okay. So then, yeah,
Eric's
Don,
the blondie.
Okay,
Don's
the
the
other
dark
one.
hair.
Yeah, I mean, he's pretty like a hard, like, you see what he's doing, all those people he works with and foundations and things like that. But do I think he outworks his father? That's kind of hard to say.
Nobody outworks Donald Trump.
I kind of, yeah. No, I think
I remember
you're
when
right.
he was
You're right.
sick or something, and he was. Remember they had that sweaty picture of him at the desk at like 2 a.m.
Oh, yeah, yeah,
and it's
with
just
the
t-shirt,
coat off,
you know,
yep.
basically just, or not his t-shirt, is his button up,
Yeah.
unbuttoned, you know, and he's just like writing papers and stuff. It's like,
You're right. You're right.
that's cool, man.
You're right.
I love people who work hard, man. I like to work hard. I really love to work hard. Some of my favorite stuff I've ever done is manual labor for
Oh, I love
hours.
manual labor. That's where all this came from because I was helping my son's school.
She has
and it's a
chiggers, everybody.
Yeah, I have chiggers. This is just one.
I don't
of
think
the-
you're allowed to say that on YouTube.
I knew it. I knew. I said if any, Jeff is gonna say something if I do mention the chiggers. I said that to myself. CH.
We're gonna have to cut that out. That's a half black
What is
Chinese.
it? What are they called? Whoa, Tina.
No, everybody says chiggers.
Well, so the
Well, yeah, but coming from the same thing, manual labor, like, man, it felt so good though. We were out there
Yeah.
like most of the day and it was a hot day, and I didn't have a hedge trimmer. I had to do it the old-fashioned way, and I was sore. I'm still sore, like my back
Such a
in
good
here.
feeling, though.
But man,
ugh.
still feels great.
It feels good to know that anything wrong with you that you feel like, you know, came from muscular activity that day.
Right.
Whenever you have random pains and you didn't do much that day, you're like, am I slowly deteriorating?
Right.
But
right,
if
right.
like you're sore because you were bending over in a certain way all day, you
That's
know,
a powerful.
oh yeah,
hurt.
you're like I'm in, like whenever I work on the car, man. Oh my god, like if you're underneath of it, by the
Yeah.
end of it, your head is 1,000 pounds,
Yep.
and your neck is just like I'm so sore. Or if you're having to do spark plugs and stuff, then you're leaning over the front, so your butt and below it is
Yep.
just like destroyed.
Then their back like hunchy. Well, for me, because I'm my torso is so much shorter, I can't reach in there.
That makes sense.
Yeah, I like to do work on my cars a little bit. Just a little bit. I used to change my own oil because I never trust. I always thought it was like a conspiracy. I'm like, they're not giving me synthetic. There's no such thing as a synthetic oil change for $25. Synthetic is like $15 a quart. Like,
Right? Where are they getting it? It must be a lie.
it just comes from this hose. What's in that hose?
Well, that's a legitimate conspiracy theory to have, to be honest with you. If you think about the most shisty of people, a lot of them are mechanics. You know what I mean? Like mechanics can be some shisty folks.
Yeah, that's
my
happened
dad's
to
a
me.
master mechanic, so I'm allowed to. I grew up around me
Yep.
and we fixed all of our cars. I still fix my cars.
Same.
You know,
At
because
least
I don't
to
mind.
what we can, there are some things we just don't have the equipment for.
Yeah, like I probably wouldn't change the transmission in my front yard. I would take it to the shop and ask them if I can borrow their lift, and me and my dad would do it there.
There's a DIY garage somewhere around here where you can do that. You have access, you rent it out, and you can work your own stuff.
I saw one of those hydraulic lifts.
Oh yeah.
for $1,500 on Facebook Marketplace yesterday or the other day.
That's not bad.
And I'm like, dude, if I really do get a property and some land and a
great.
garage, oh my God, the whole world would work so much better if I could just put a lift underneath of a car and go to work. It makes everything easier. But talk about some safety stuff you don't want to be fooling with.
Yeah, you have to be so careful.
Yeah, that's just the thing, you know, like you're dealing with some scary shit, bro.
Yeah.
You
No,
know?
like I like when I have to lift the vehicles and stuff, I have a hydraulic lift as well, just a little one. But like when I'm putting
I was talking about the
stands underneath. Oh yeah.
Yeah, I'm talking about one of those ones that goes and clinks up and you stand under the whole thing. Yeah.
Well,
I have the regular
anything
lifts.
anything to do with lifting a vehicle up in the air.
Right.
Anything. Like I can only imagine the hydraulic. That was just like I said, like the comparison in my brain, like I like double check.
Everything.
And I made sure I didn't get the cheap ones. They were saying Harbor Freight sells them for cheap, but it's like they're known to fail. I made sure I got the expensive ones, and I still like, did I lock it in? Okay, like, and I still keep the hydraulic thing, the lift there just because.
Right.
It's like, unless it's in my way, of course. But like, yeah, no, just thinking about that, it's scary.
I had a hand jack like explode. It was under. I probably shouldn't have been using it on like a car that size, but it said it worked for whatever, you know, like all normal cars.
Like a
and I was,
two-ton,
my leg, I
whatever.
was changing my boy's tire, and it just the little jack just exploded, and the car boom, drowned. And I was like, did I just lose my leg? But I looked, I was like, it missed me. But that's when I was just thinking, like we were saying, like that shit happened so fast.
So scary.
And it's just gonna be like whatever happens is gonna be devastating. Like
whatever happens is gonna be fucking
it's over.
awful. Yes.
Yeah, whatever it got.
Yeah.
Like that bitch is gone, bro.
No, it's over.
You're not gonna get no function back in that bitch. Yeah, that's the thing. Well, I hadn't read that there was a lot of failures with the Harbor Freight ones. I have those.
Yeah. Be careful.
Well, I have
I'll
two
send
of
you the
those.
article.
I've got four.
I'll send you the
technically.
article.
Yeah, it was hard to find some really tall ones because my car's got that lift kit on it, and I have to lift it up so damn high. And I also have the Pittsburgh from Harbor Freight, their other jack, because that one got really good reviews on Project Farm. I look a lot at Project Farm on YouTube. Do you know what that is? It's this really awesome dude who's just like a normal white guy who's like,
projects.
Yeah, you could. His name. He seems like his name should be Steven, but he's like got glasses and stuff, and he's like, "Hi guys. Today we're going to be going over which motor oil you should be using and which one has the best over long periods of time." And then he tests them in a way that you would go, that is exactly how the test should be done. And thank you for telling me which one's the actual best.
Project Farm?
Yes, Project Farm.
I'm going to follow him. Project Farm, right
He
here.
does all of these tests on different stuff and rates everything 1 to 10.
Subbed.
And it's amazing. He does oils. He does
Oh, that's fantastic.
different kinds of lights, all kinds of stuff that you were looking for the reviews of. Motor oil was the coolest one, and I even did his full research, but the one that he said was the best is hard to get.
What is it? I just
Amsoil, some high expensive version of Amsoil.
I'll look it up.
Was what it was, but it was so rare I couldn't get to it. I was like, it's like $50 instead of 30, and I was like, I don't care about my motor oil that much. I change it every 10,000, full synthetic every 10,000.
I do full synthetic, but I change every 5,000 because I'm crazy.
Yeah, that's fair. You can be a little crazy.
Yeah. No, that's
especially
how I am
with today
with vehicles.
Well, you should be that way with vehicles because
make them last because
they're trying to destroy them, dude.
They do.
This whole Florida thing,
with everything,
and the whole ethanol thing too. With the
what's
Biden
going on with that?
Well, Biden increased the amount of ethanol from 10% to 15%, which when you read all the handbooks, they're like over 10% is bad for your engine.
Really bad for the engine.
So already that's occurring. So everybody's gas combustion engines are getting shit on right now at a slow pace. That's one thing. The other thing was in Florida, they had the Florida government announced to everybody to go fill up your gas tanks in preparation for the hurricane. And then the next day they said, whoops, 29 of the gas stations had mixed diesel in with the regular gas.
Oh, no.
So
I did see a little something. I didn't know.
29 gas stations had that particular, I guess, stuff in it. But it just,
wow.
After a while, how many coincidences does it take before you start to go, they are attempting to destroy the ability for independent power to exist.
I honestly don't think I'm gonna say this isn't as tinfoil hat as I'm thinking that you're saying.
Yeah, well, I'm not saying it guaranteed was, but after the Maui fires everything else.
This is what I'm thinking. Yes, it's kind of being done on purpose, but not in the way that I think that you and some other people think. I think it's being done on purpose in the sense of negligence, where like they're trying to cut budget so we can give more money to Ukraine. Well, they're going to cut this safety person out that would normally be working there on a government entity or like an observation, or like, oh, we're going to change the rule from inspecting from every year to every 5 years because we don't want to pay that guy for whatever this, let's just say fuel tanks have a specific.
And it happens to benefit the global agenda that all the motor vehicles are destroyed.
See what I mean? So it's by purposeful
by withdrawing,
negligence,
rather than by instigating.
Exactly, and you can't point it and be like, "Hey, they were poisoning the water hole." I have a picture of them dumping chemicals into the water hole. They're doing it in a way that if you try to point a finger, they'll be like, "What are you talking about? Nobody was poisoning the water hole." It's like, yeah, well, nobody was like upkeeping the pipe that kept the poison out.
Right.
On purpose,
so
knowing
like
that the pipe.
Either way, it's even just with that one example, it's shit, because it's like either it just so happened that 29 gas stations did that, whatever, and it just was a coincidence, and that means normally that's happening every day with a sizable amount of stations, or it was planned, or it was both. But like either way, and it's like the two ways the country is deteriorating: planned negligence or like planned corruption, and just like incompetence. But like if I kill somebody on accident, it's still manslaughter. I'm still fucked. But for them, they can use that as a cover. And like you said, it goes hand in hand with like intentional. So, but
and I bet you real people died. Look at the police that turned the people away at the barricades in Maui. The government was like, "Oh, you can't go this way." Why? I don't know. My captain said nobody's allowed to go down I-24. You got to turn around. Sorry, guys. Just he's like literally got to dip in, just thinking about nothing. They're literally driving back in to die.
Right.
You know what I mean? And it's just like the government's like, "Oops." That's why I'm saying you can't put your freaking trust in these guys.
No.
This is the show, by the way, Jeff. This last 27 minutes is stuff that I want in the show.
People who listened to authority, turned right back around to bake alive in their vehicles.
Yeah.
That is some shit. That is some kind of fucking sentence to be saying right now.
That's enough. That's enough to be like, hey, you should question everything they say all the time.
Alive. This isn't just like a traffic stop that kind of the police was a little bit trampling on your rights and just being and he shouldn't have done that and you gave him your life. You know, this isn't that. This is so much more. The scale is just up here in comparison.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Did you see that one where they, I think it said they arrested the wrong girl and they pulled her over on a train track or whatever, and then they put her in the cop car or whatever, and they were like, we're pretty sure she's the one we were looking for earlier. I think it turned out that she wasn't the one they were looking for earlier.
Okay.
But anyway, they put her in the cop car, and they're searching through her whole car. They're like, I know we're going to find something in here. I looked in the center console already. And then all of a sudden they hear, burr, 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 train.
Wow.
And they had parked the cop cruiser with her in the back seat on the train tracks.
No.
And it got her. And it's just like, I think she was even the wrong person too.
Oh my God.
And it's just like, dude, guys, I'm not saying that that's like the sheer sign to say that you can never trust a police officer, but all of the things that I'm saying are the sign that you need to be practicing independent critical analysis of the authorities that you're listening to.
Like self-preservation. I'd be like, I'm happy to go in the back seat of the car, but can you move the car for real and make a big deal about it or something? Like look out for your own. Don't think that they've got it. Don't just like sit back and just be like,
and also
got
the
it.
sentence like, I'm happy to go in the car. It's like, no, I'm not happy to go like in a cage. I mean. You put me in a cage.
You know what I mean?
You know, I know what you mean.
Parking on a train track is like the most. Isn't that like that's got to be one of the most illegal things you can do? I think that's like that has to be intentional because
even when you're at a stoplight, like if you're a stoplight and you're stuck in a line of cars and it happens to go over a train track, you're a fucking idiot. If you see people like that as they're stuck in bumper to bumper traffic, so they just want to get up on the other car, but it happens to put their vehicle on the train tracks, they will do it. And they look stupid.
That's not murder. Like that's crazy.
Right? No, that was definitely negligent to a whole nother level. But
like Ross was saying, it's like at that, how like for when people will call that negligent, how like if I put someone on a train track immobilized, then a train hits them,
Right.
How like that veers so off, like something that could be called negligence to the point, like, or oh, he just happened to be in the way of this gun at a gun range. I tied him to a target or something. That's just
Right.
Hang on, I'm gonna show
Ross
this.
has the article right now.
An update now on a stunning case involving police here in Colorado. Look. It involved a woman handcuffed in a police car as a freight train collided.
Runs away from
Former
it.
Platteville police officer Pablo Vasquez is charged with reckless endangerment in this case. And tonight, we have learned the woman left in the car is now suing. Our Karen Morfitt digging into that complaint for us tonight. And Karen, the suit points to a piece of evidence, of course, the body camera video.
Yeah, Karen, that body camera video captures exactly what happened from the arrest to that collision, but the lawsuit also points out survived.
I mean, needless to say that she's traumatized.
Platteville police cruiser. Of those officers.
I mean, look at this.
Body camera video showing the moment a freight train collides with a Platteville police cruiser is shocking.
Dispatch officer 346, status medical emergent. The suspect was in the vehicle that was hit by the train.
But even more is knowing a woman handcuffed in the back seat at the time survived.
I mean, needless to say that she's traumatized.
Yerny Rios Gonzalez, who was taken into custody that night for an alleged road rage incident, suffered several broken bones, a severe head injury, and spent weeks in the hospital. She's now suing the 3 officers who were on scene and the departments they work for. Jonathan Stein is her attorney.
Imagine what she went through. Like, that is so scary. That must have been
You
so
saw
scary.
it coming, and you're like, "Oh no, is this going to be
And
like
then everybody runs. Oh shit!
oh, quick, run the other way"?
Oh man. And the thing is, I can't sit there and say like, oh, it was on purpose or anything like that, because the police would have been sitting in that car doing his little, you know, his little.
Yeah, it wasn't on purpose. They just stopped her
Negligent.
They just stopped her at a dumb spot.
Yeah, negligent. For
Negligent
If it
on
was
their
a
part.
former friend of the Clintons or something, then you'd be like, okay, you know.
Sure. Yeah, exactly.
Right. Oh, okay. They just hired him. Let me guess. He was the officer who was
Good point,
also
Jeff.
on scene in Las Vegas
Right.
in the shooting, you know?
Exactly.
Yeah, that would be like a whole nother thing. Speaking of which, I wanted to show this really cool clip from Discord.
During the Obama administration, CNN edited a video to make it a season. New York Times and CNN shared a story with photos of immigrant children in cages. It turns out the photos were from 2014, during the Obama administration. CNN edited a video to make it appear as though Trump impatiently dumped a box of fish food into the water in Japan. The full video showed Trump had simply followed the lead of Japan's prime minister.
This is just, I remember all of these.
In December
I didn't
2018,
know about the
NBC
Japan one.
reported Trump was the first president since 2002 not to visit the troops at Christmas time, but Trump actually left the White House on Christmas to visit troops in Iraq. In November 2019, Newsweek falsely reported that President Trump was spending Thanksgiving golfing in Florida. He was actually in Afghanistan serving dinner to U.S. troops. Time incorrectly reported that President Trump had removed the bust statue of Martin Luther King Jr. from the Oval Office. That false news went viral. TMZ reported Trump had changed the name Black History Month to African American History Month, implying the change was racist. In fact, it turns out Presidents Obama, George W. Bush, and Clinton all called Black History Month African American History Month. Also, the Washington Post reported on the cabinet battle over Trump's immigration order. The article was repeatedly updated to note that one of the reported meetings did not actually occur, a conference call did not happen as described in the article, and actions attributed to Trump were actually carried out by his chief of staff. And the New York Times reported on supposed contacts between Trump campaign staff and senior Russian intelligence officials. FBI Director James Comey later testified it was not true.
That report by the New York Times was not true. Is that a fair statement?
In the main, it was not true. Credo che sia molto importante che la gente...
In May, the BBC and The Guardian reported because Trump wasn't wearing headsets, he didn't bother to listen to the translation of a speech by Italy's prime minister.
Per lo sviluppo dell'Africa...
But Trump was wearing his earpiece in his right ear, as always, said the White House. In June 2017, NBC News reported that Russian President Putin said he had compromising information about Trump. Actually, Putin said the opposite.
Do you have something damaging on our president?
Well, this is just another load of nonsense. Where would we get this information from?
CNN and ABC falsely reported that FBI Director Comey was going to refute Donald Trump's claim that Comey told Trump 3 times he wasn't under investigation. Instead, Comey confirmed Trump's claim under oath.
It appears that you actually volunteered that assurance. Is that correct?
That's correct.
CNN retracted a report claiming Congress was investigating a Russian investment fund with ties to Trump officials. Newsweek reported Poland's First Lady refused to shake Trump's hand, but later acknowledged she did. Bloomberg and the Wall Street Journal falsely reported special counsel Robert Mueller had subpoenaed Trump's bank records. AP reported a new survey showed trust in the media had fallen during the Trump presidency, but the survey was actually conducted under President Obama. The New York Times said a hypothetical family's tax bill would rise nearly $4,000 under Trump's tax plan. It turns out their taxes would actually go down $43. ABC aired video purportedly showing a slaughter and horrific report of atrocities against Kurds by Turkey after President Trump withdrew U.S. troops.
This video right here appearing to show Turkey's military bombing Kurd civilians in a Syrian border town.
But the video was file tape of a training video in the U.S. CBS aired a story in March of 2020, supposedly showing a New York hospital crowded with coronavirus patients.
It's all hands on deck in America's hospitals.
It was actually file tape from Italy. A week later, CBS News mistakenly used the Italy video again.
Yeah.
Mistakenly.
New York Times and CNN shared.
This is what we're up against, dude.
Mm-hmm.
This is what I feel like I have been up against since I decided to start making videos on social media. That whole video you just watched is what made me, each one of those plus 100 more occasions where they would lie about something and then I would know the truth and I'd go, this is not fair. This seems wrong. You know, and that's what really got me on Trump's team. It was actually the opposition to Trump is what got me on his team, because the opposition was not telling the truth and fighting fairly. And I just realized that the only people that play that dirty are dirty people, you know, and so that kind of set me on the journey to figure this all out and make me a voice.
It's funny
quote
that
unquote.
It's funny that you say that. It feels like that's what's happening now, just on a grander scale and with a lot more people that you would have thought would have been staunch Democrats, like for the rest of their lives, that they're turning and kind of, I guess you could say, getting on the Trump train, if you would. They're not doing it because of anything he's done, not done, whatever. They're doing it because of the opposition's actions, like indicting him freaking 300-400 times, whatever, you know. The same thing, that they're lying, that it's shown that the opposition and it's making people go, well, wait a minute, okay, I was on Orange Band bad team, but why are you doing all that? It's making people go, well, why are you doing all that? If we're already on the team, why would you need to do that?
Right. Why are you still kicking him when he's down, quote unquote? Like, what are you afraid of?
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I guess they just don't see at the same time that all of our money is going to Ukraine, that nobody's allowed to look at like underneath of the rug to figure out where it actually went in Ukraine.
I think that's
and all
really,
of the crap for us to exist is becoming significantly more expensive rapidly.
That's been like the sputtering is Ukraine. What you just said, all the money to Ukraine, that's the sputtering of the volcano of these people waking up. I mean, hopefully waking up.
Hopefully, dude.
Hopefully.
But how would we know? How would we know? Can you believe the vote tallies
Chicago?
Anywhere?
Chicago?
No, I mean, not how can you know that? I'm saying how, like, because ultimately what you're saying is their tide is turning, which I don't disagree with. It seems to be the case. Even the black folks that we're seeing in Atlanta and stuff are like, yo, Trump is one of us. Mm-hmm. And that's happening. But if they control the vote totals at the end of the day, allegedly, if that was to be a thing, that would make, like we've talked about before, any hope pretty difficult.
They're starting to turn on each other. Okay, I see where you're coming from, but they're already turning on each other. Did you hear about the Democrat on Democrat action in, I don't know where it is. Anyway, both black Democrats. One is a female. She is the head of the whatever Democrat electoral thing there. So she is in charge of like counting the votes. The opponent was a black man, and he wasn't as like progressive as the other person. The other person definitely probably should have lost. They somehow won. When he's like, hey, I want to see the counts and the votes and everything, there's missing data. There's missing this. The clerk of the elections, like I guess she can during auditing processes, she takes electronic and puts it side by side with whatever the machine push or the paper vote. I don't really know, but even she is saying there is something squirrely that has happened here. They're starting to turn on each other. The rats are starting to eat each other, like attack each other.
Mm-hmm.
So that is where, and there's enough people that are in charge of these electoral processes that maybe let some shit slide last time, that maybe let a few USPs because they thought Orange Man bad too.
Are we going to fix anything in the next year and a half?
I hope so.
Is it going to be fast enough to cause that? Because if not, we're in the same boat. And then the only thing that...
But more people are not going to take no for an answer. I think more people are going to be Republicans going to poll countings.
I don't disagree with you.
Remember they got turned away in 2020.
I don't disagree with you. What are they going to do?
Knock down the darn door. Before, they were just timid like white people going to, and they're like, hey, we're Republican counters, like we're poll volunteers, we're allowed to be in here. And they had people like in their faces, Democrats turning them away, saying, no, you can't. These people in charge of the elections, no, you can't count. And the Republicans didn't push back enough to say, no, this is a constitutional right, let me in there, or we need to have a full stop. We need to have an investigation right now. I think this time around,
I think people will be more vigilant,
nope.
probably.
Yes.
But their ballot harvesting stuff and the way that the system is, the manual adjudication where you're able to take a ballot to review by a certain delegate group of people that are pre-decided about who gets to decide, oh, did this person mean to vote for Trump or for this person? You know, I don't know what I think, but I know that if it doesn't go the right way, like it'll be time to move, you know.
Singapore sounds nice.
Is Singapore nice?
Yeah, actually, Singapore.
If the new mail-in, everything that the scope of it that was introduced during the Corona stuff, if all of that isn't walked back, then it's just we're screwed. It'll either be a libtard president for the rest of history, or it'll be a non-challenging Republican shill that they can put in place, like
Vivek or Vivek.
Yeah. And they can say, look, we just.
You think Vivek is a plant?
Probably.
Oh. Well, I think
he's really well spoken, and he's had weird connections for a long time.
I don't see it that way, but I think Romney, Pence, and
Romney.
Nikki Haley are the worst.
Nikki Haley's pretty bad. Liz Cheney's worse than all of them. Obviously.
Oh yeah, no, she's evil.
But dude, I mean, a lot of these people, they do not speak for us, man. Lindsey Graham.
Yeah.
And stuff, man. You're just like, these guys.
Brian Kemp.
Sean Hannity in some cases, too.
Oh, no. Sean Hannity. Rhino, 100%.
I did not
I've always put that in his videos on Instagram. I've always said, you're definitely a rhino. Like, in some stuff where he's, had these weird takes where, the constituents are like, no. And I put he's a rhino all the time on his Instagram. Sorry.
Yeah, it's just if you didn't follow, the original, what's the word? If you called anything a conspiracy theory in the last couple years, there's two categories. There's acceptable humans and there's unacceptable humans. Think about this just rationally, right? There's acceptable humans who you'll tolerate, and there's unacceptable humans. Mm-hmm. If they participated in something that was considered to be a conspiracy theory in most of the mind of the public, you moved away from acceptable human to unacceptable human, right? Mm-hmm. Sean Hannity has always been one of the acceptable humans. Mm-hmm. He doesn't ever venture too far out of the thing because he doesn't want to be seen as whatever. But those people that were willing to say, hey, hang on a second, the DNC paid for the Steele dossier that you got the information about Trump being connected to Russia. They funded that.
Okay.
Even though this is a conspiracy theory, I know I'm right. So there's a conspiracy going on here, and all the media outlets ran with it. And now we know today that the Trump collusion hoax was paid for by essentially Hillary Clinton and her team, right? And so now that I say that, it's fine. So you have to be somebody who's willing to step out and go, this obviously seems bad. Okay. Or else you don't have my respect. And Sean Hannity doesn't seem to do that to me. He doesn't seem... I
agree.
Tucker's talking about J6 being kind of funny now.
I agree.
I appreciate that. He's talking about COVID being kind of funny. He's talking about, the mask not being helpful.
They don't want to be they don't want to be kicked out of the cool club.
They don't want to be kicked out of the acceptable person club. I don't want to be hated by everybody.
But they're right enough to be considered right-wing-ish.
Right. And that's just not fair because either jump in the pool with us, bro, or you're not one of us. And by the pool of us, I don't mean just embrace every stupid fallacy.
I was gonna say, like, should we not be accepting people? Should we now? This is my only pushback.
I'll let you be a flat earther if I can kick the tires on every damn thing that you say. I have to be smarter than you about your subject before I consider you stupid.
But Sean Hannity does have people on. Now, does he be rude to them and like ostracize them when they're like a little bit too conspiracy right or whatever? Yeah, but he doesn't not have conversations with them. He is an TV shill entertainer. I don't take those people very seriously.
Yeah, that's fair.
I mean, because the thing is that our side is supposed to be more accepting, right? You could swim in our pool.
I gotta change this
even
AC. I'm like getting so hot.
You're not.
Are you getting hot?
It's getting warmer. Yeah.
I'm pointing it at the back of this thing instead of up.
Okay.
And I think I need to point it up.
Yeah, it is getting warmer in here. I can feel it. Well, but anyway, our side, right, says like, why don't you come in the pool with us even if you have a different or a bit of differing opinions on certain things, you know what I mean? So I don't know to just say, oh, well, you can't be in our club if you don't fully agree with everything that we say too. Isn't that the point of our side that we've
No, our side is supposed to pursue logic to the best that we can. Our side is supposed to pursue the reason. And that means that we have the balls enough to...
He just doesn't talk about it. He does on certain times, and then he just doesn't talk about it.
But our side is supposed to be the side that pursues reason, and that means disqualifying unreasonable arguments. Like there was no election fraud. None.
I know Ben Shapiro is one that completely just baffles me. He thinks that John Fetterman won that completely legitimately.
There's no way that you can come away from that. And think about all of the people that we have affidavits signed by them saying that when they were counting ballots, some of the ballots were handed to them in sequential order on the bottom of the ballot number.
Okay.
Where it'd be like 11,047, 11,048, 11,049.
Yeah.
They're like, these all came from...
What are the chances?
What are the chances this batch got handed to me as if it had just been printed instead of sent out and then sent in at random times for us to count?
901 and 758.
Of course.
Yeah.
Right. So they said they were going through hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of those. Well, that indicates something. Who had their hand on somewhere that could do that kind of a thing. And so anyway,
I didn't know that. See, I didn't even know that.
So there's lots of this where you have to just go, okay, if you're on our side agrees on pursuing reason and pursuing logic. Mm-hmm. If you're not pursuing reason and pursuing logic about this, you're not on my side. If you aren't pursuing the truth about something, you're not on my side.
Right, which is why we do call him a rhino. I mean, he is a rhino, and we are getting very, very sick and tired of them. See, I think even 2 years ago, we tolerated rhinos very much so. I think we're getting most of the constituents that vote Republican on a regular basis. I don't know what kind of group they're becoming now because Republicans are now like rhinos. You still have those kinds of Republicans.
I guess when I think of it like cancer. Like... Mm-hmm. You're a person who has cancer in like your stomach or something, and we're all trying to talk to you about it or talk about the fact that this person has cancer in their stomach, and then it ends up that it's also in their lymphatic system or whatever, lymph nodes, and now it's like in their lungs.
Spreading,
or whatever, it's spreading. And then I'm like, I bet it's in their arms too, and you're like, you're crazy. And I'm like, stop this. You know that we gave guns to the Mexican cartels. You know that the Gulf of Tonkin incident that got us into Vietnam didn't happen. You know that 9/11 was an inside job. You know that Dick Cheney got rich. You know that we gave freaking syphilis to black dudes underneath of the CDC's guidance basically forever ago to figure out how the drug works or how the disease works. Yep. And we're to the point where I'm saying stuff like they're intentionally sabotaging X, Y, and Z. It seems like they are, and the person has the gall to be like, wait a minute, that's too far.
It's because the candidate was not good enough. That's all. The candidate, and it's like, are you effing insane?
Trump didn't have a chance. It's just like,
what are you talking
there's
about?
never been an election in history where a sitting president gets more votes the second time and loses. It hasn't happened ever.
And not just that, I guess this would be circumstantial evidence. Whenever there was anywhere that Trump was showing up, whether he was going to stay there or just driving through, thousands of people lining the streets.
Do you remember the motorcade that was like 100 and something miles long or whatever that was driving down to go see him in Arizona or whatever?
I think
there was like a motorcade that was the largest. A lot of them happened. It was like the largest motorcade in human history. That was the size of the motorcade, right?
That's what I mean.
And then that story got out that the largest motorcade in human history on every country happened for Donald Trump, from Donald Trump supporters, and all of the social media sites shut it down as false information.
I didn't know that.
And
yeah,
then,
see, I didn't even know
and what
that.
they did was they took it because it was like 100-mile one at some points, right? Mm-hmm. And they said the established, they said the reason that it didn't qualify. Oh my God, I'm remembering it. The reason that it didn't qualify,
I've never even heard this.
Because people were saying, this was the thing. They were like, oh my God, did you hear they broke the Guinness World Book of Records for the longest motorcade? And everybody was like, wow, really? And they were like, yeah, it's like 100-mile long motorcade to go to a Trump rally. Okay. Wow, really? Yeah, really. Insane. Fact check. This is not actually breaking the Guinness World Book of Records. 6 paragraphs of bullshit. 7th paragraph, because they didn't apply to actually break the Guinness World Book of Record.
God.
Everything, bro. Everything the man did, everything that happened, they smear it and they lie about it and they try to act like it's not what's really happening. And you have the audacity to say to me that you think the elections were just on the up and up?
No.
Bruh, do you hate money? Have you never, ever thought, how do I better my financial circumstance? And then imagine another human being in your similar setting going, I'm immoral. How can I better my financial circumstance? And decide to change an election? And then none of the shit that happened to China under Trump happens again, where he's charging them billions of dollars? What the hell? Lockheed Martin just goes to war with Ukraine like the same week that Biden gets elected. Now, obviously, it's not the same week, but like,
I know
you get like, it's like Trump closed all the doors to our money. We want the conveyor belt back open, and you're so foolish that you don't think they would take $150 million and try to rig some stuff. What planet are you on, bro?
Right.
What is this?
Right. And not
like saying it's
people.
crazy and impossible. Like people every week, someone will cheat in a poker game or something for a little money. But you don't think the thing with the highest stakes in the world, with the most powerful people in the world, with the most money on the line in the world, that anyone would have a vested interest. And just a couple of years before, the same people were saying that the election was rigged with the Russia. So it's like 2 years ago, it was rigged because it was for a narrative and that wasn't even real. But now it's impossible to be rigged.
Right.
When suddenly there's more votes for both presidents than historic ever, both 80+ million. It's literally not even possible how many votes
they had to match, because I think Trump got so much overwhelming. They had to try to match that with all the inflated numbers across the board. I think from every level of government.
So it becomes a statistically impossible number, but there's nothing possible that couldn't have been rigged. It just so happened people popped out of nowhere and voted for both. It's just
But it's
and you know they weren't adding any votes to Trump.
Right, and the circumstantial evidence too, to me, proves it. When I was saying even just that, when Trump passes by thousands of people, Biden supposedly got more than Trump.
Right, and didn't have. I never seen a Biden hat.
Right, we should be seeing at least hundreds. Let's just say there half of the voting block is apathetic, stay-at-home losers. Cool. At least half of those numbers, 25% of those numbers should be coming up. There are times where I've seen news reports where his own staff had to go out and get out of the car and stand on the side of the road because he didn't have one person there. Maybe one crazy person, a couple of local crazy persons. That's it. And he supposedly made more than Donald Trump. And there are times when Donald Trump doesn't even stop. They just know that his car is going to whisk by in half a second. Right. And there are thousands of people that take out of their time, make signs, dress up, and wait on the side of the road just to see him pass by for half a millisecond. Right. And then Biden has to use his own staff. That's where circumstantial evidence and it happens everywhere. It's not just one area that Biden goes. That it's everywhere. Right. Everywhere.
Yeah, I mean, just if you're not on the team of trying to think critically at this point, you're in the enemy's camp. Yep. Because they're going to keep your non-critical thinking self they're going to weaponize you against us eventually.
What do you say to Christians then? I have, because I actually had this conversation recently. What do you say to Christians then that, quote, you'll probably know where this is from, like the meek will inherit the earth, for they shall be, that part.
Matthew.
So God wants us to, even though this stuff does make us angry, and even though, like, love your persecutors, love those people, and still, like, you know, give them grace because they know not what they do. So what do you say to that? That we're still supposed to be...
If I lived under Genghis Khan right now, then I would be like, damn, this sucks. I'm in a monarchy. This is what I was born into. Yeah, let me pray for Genghis Khan. This sucks. He raped all these women, and he raped all these women. This is terrible, you know? But we are in the United States of America. The way that our system is set up is not a monarchy, and it's not a kingdom. We are technically supposed to be the rulers. They are supposed to represent us. So we are the government. That's the way it's supposed to work. We're representative republic, basically.
Yep.
And so because of that, there's a whole nother realm of you're supposed to be engaged in demanding that biblical cool shit happens in your place of engagement, because you are the representative. Like, you're supposed to vote for people that have those types of thoughts and feelings and all that stuff.
Okay.
And then if it starts to be corruption, well, that means that they aren't doing their duty to the people.
Okay.
Already. They are not our actual leaders. They're not.
Right.
We're the leaders. They're supposed to be saying what we're saying. That's not happening anymore. So the thing is getting perverted anyway. So it's already like they tried to steal something from somebody else, right? And so if the question is, do you just take it? I think there's two answers. You can look at the biblical side of this and go, okay, I always said this. I say that I won't die for like American ideals. I won't die for American ideals. I'll die for biblical ideals. You know, so if it ever came down to it and it was like, you know, some crazy event or something, I would be like, well, I might die for it, right? But like, I don't want to give my life for that. I'll give my life for Jesus because there's eternal rewards in that. And at the end of the day, he's coming back as far as the biblical expectation, and he's going to have to deal with all the kingdoms that are evil. So I don't know whether America qualifies as one of the people that's going to cooperate with the supposed Antichrist in the future in this campaign that's going to occur. But here's what the book of Revelation says about all this. The book of Revelation, you're familiar with the 7 seals, the 7 trumpets, and the 7 bowls? That's like the judgments of God in the end days, right? Well, so there's 7 seals, which is, there's scrolls, okay? There's scrolls that are laid out from eternity. They've been there for a long time. This is Revelation.
Okay.
And what happens is the world starts going worse and worse, and the Antichrist is basically getting people to worship him, and he has a whole army, and you have to have a mark on your arm or your forehead in order to buy, trade, or sell anything or eat food and stuff like that in society. So there's this big split that happens, which is why everybody talks about it being the mark of the beast to have digital ID.
I've heard that.
Right, so that's like the whole thing, right? So then that system is supposed to get propulsion more and more and more, and then somebody's supposed to be a leader on it, and eventually they're going to be a person that like unites the whole world in this common idea of goodness and humanism and da-da-da-da-da. And then you fast forward, and that is the person who ends up doing all of the persecuting of the Christians in the end times. That person and that army is who goes after all of the saints, right? The blood, they'll be drunk on the blood of the saints is a really common repetitious theme throughout the eschatological passages, which is study of end times. Okay. That's what eschatological means. It just means study of end times. So that's a consistent theme. And so the way that the church is doing it is there's these things called the bowls of wrath. So the seals are God's judgment on the Antichrist and the Antichrist army and all of the unbelievers in the world at that point.
Okay.
And the first seal that he does, if you think about it, there's 21 judgments, right? Meaning he's gonna a third of the trees die.
Okay.
Right. And then a third of the grass dies, and then a third of the stars fall from heaven, and then a third of this happens, and then a third of the water is undrinkable, and then a third of the sea animals die. And so this is like there's a slow judgment that starts happening in sequential order to how this is supposed to be laid out, right? If you're a person who believes in biblical literature, okay? I do. But there's a lot of people who are like, maybe that already happened, maybe it's going to happen in the future. But either way, hear me out for a second because this makes sense. So there's 21 judgments. They start off easy and they get more and more worse as time goes on as far as the devastating nature of them, right?
Okay.
Well, the same thing.
Is this almost like with Moses and
this
the
is
Pharaoh?
exactly like it. Yes.
Okay.
Exactly like that. Because
right,
they had
I'm
Goshen.
following.
They had Goshen, I think is what it was called there, where they were
I don't
untouched.
know enough. Yeah.
The Israelites that were praying for the frogs or that were it was happening to the Egyptians, but not to the Hebrews.
Yeah.
Right. So that's the whole entire concept of like the end times church, the bride being prepared before the Lord for his return is going, Lord, they're hurting us. God, we ask you right now to strike down this thing. And they're praying and they're filling up the bowls of incense, right? And then God is pouring them out.
7 bowls.
Yeah, 7 bowls of wrath is at the
Okay.
end of it, which is the wrath, which is the part where you're like, then the interesting thing about this is it displays the character of God. If he was just an asshole and he just wanted everybody to die, there'd be 1 bowl of wrath right from the get-go. But he attempts with the least amount of pain possible to get people to repent. That's why there's 21 judgments instead
So
of
it's
1.
like, hey, I keep giving you guys chances.
Yes, and even in the book of
Okay.
Revelations,
All
there's
right.
in the book of Revelation, there's a very clear chant that they're saying on the evil rulers of the world conspire together against God, like, or whatever. It's a very common trend. It's in Daniel and Joel. And anyway, they say, hide us from the face of the Lamb. So they head to the mountains. They hide in the mountains is what it says. And they're saying, hide us from the face of the Lamb, because they know that they're actually getting judged by Jesus, the Lamb.
Okay.
So they know
yeah,
it.
yeah.
It's not just like, oh God, all the trees just got wiped out. You know what I mean? It's just like
they know
they know it. And it says witchcraft will increase heavily, murder, a bunch of other
What's
stuff
happening here?
will increase massively. You know, and I was just anyway. So all this is pointing at the picture that the church, right, is. I think if you're going to be part of the church, if you're an American, you need to be involved because you are the government. If you are an American citizen, you are the government. You are the leader. They're supposed to represent your words. And if that's not happening there, then something unjust has happened and it's right for you to remedy that. The second thing, does that make sense? And then the second thing is upon the condition that it's actually pure evil, you are praying for God to judge them.
Right. Well, but this is what's happening though, is that, okay, yes, we have right processes and things like that to, like, let's just say remove someone from office, right? We know they don't give a fuck about rules. They don't.
Right. They
Rules
ask
that are
forgiveness,
literally
not
right
permission.
there. Right. Again, the Christians are being like the Republicans in Congress. We're just going to have a harsh talking to them and we're going to tell them, don't you do that again. And, you know, and we'll just move on. Let's not, come on, guys, be gracious to your persecutors.
Well, you're describing why Andrew Tate's a Muslim and not a Christian, because that frustrates him. That's what makes him mad about Christianity, because he hasn't met Jesus for real, which is the reason you become a Christian, is because Jesus is compelling to you.
Right.
Right. And so he hasn't met Jesus for real. So he's just looking on the outside at which religion seems to create the most impact. And he's like, the Muslims go harder, basically, is what he's saying.
I think he also gets money from the Saudis, but I think also it's like a misinterpretation. When people say meek, like, oh, you can't do anything. I think in that sense, like, Ross, you probably know like the actual, like the words itself. And
I know it doesn't mean meek. Wait, I know it doesn't mean meek like weak.
Meek will inherit the earth. And the definition of meek is technically somebody who keeps their sword sheathed.
Right, that's what I mean.
For the greater good.
Exactly. Yeah. No, I know it doesn't mean
people
like
act
weak
like it's like wimpy and stuff, or just let people abuse you. But I think that's also
that's what it is, though. That's what that's what's happening, and that's what I mean, Jeff. Like there were a lot of our Christian counterparts and everything are allowing the abuse continually. And
right, because let somebody slap you in one cheek and let them slap the other too. Like some principles that are biblical, but that's if they hate you because of Jesus, not if they just hate you because you happen to be like a person who disagrees with them. It's like, that's dumb to hate people for that, in my opinion.
Right. Well, and again, that's what I mean. Like, I don't know. It's just, it does frustrate me because, I don't know if it's right, but the anger that does come from me, well, sometimes I justify, I know it shouldn't, you know, and I'm trying, but like sometimes I do justify it in my head because didn't Jesus flip the tables, right?
Yeah, of the temple.
Righteous anger.
Right.
When that's what I mean. I'm not talking about going and being as bullheaded.
But what you're talking about too is how slavery ended. Slavery ended from a zealous Christian. William Wilberforce or whatever his name was. He was a really zealous Christian that he felt compelled by God basically to rid slavery. And so like he was always talking about that and wanted to basically kind of have that kind of a thing happen. And there was a lot of stories throughout history.
And he
they
went
had
hard,
to get
obviously.
zealous. He had to go hard.
Yeah.
You know, in some weird way, and it did make a difference. So I think the answer is
when.
To be honest, I think the answer is I'm supposed to be engaged. 100%. I think I'm supposed to be engaged, and I think I'm supposed to do my best to stop bad things from happening.
Right. So I'll see you next Tuesday then. I'm just kidding. Yeah. I'm kidding.
Yeah. Well,
No,
that's my thought process is that I think I'm supposed to be doing that with whatever capability I have.
I know.
Even though they just fact checked me on Instagram, and now my impact will be about 100% less, which sucks. But hey, I got up from 150 to 165 in about 4 days, so that was good.
Hey, there you
before
go.
they shadow banned me again.
But I don't know. That's just where I kind of get like, really, guys, how long are we just going to be like the meek? You know, how long am I just supposed to say, you're right, I'll take the high road, let him like slap me in the face and just turn around and walk away? But then I'm going to go to that store again, and I know he's going to slap me in the face, but I just am supposed to be gracious and walk away.
Eric, my wife told me that a lot of people that she knows are back at Target, and I was like, what?
Told you. Didn't
What?
I tell you? Didn't I tell you?
You did.
Tina did call it. Trendy Tina did call it.
Trendy Tina. TT. TT.
There's TT.
TT called that shit. TT called that shit.
I don't know why it doesn't let you do yours anymore.
Yeah, I remember we were trying to fix it and then we just didn't. But
I just didn't.
Yeah, was I not correct?
Yeah, I mean, but I will say I'm happy about Bud Light going down the shooter.
And I wish, I'm going to look and see if I can find a video on that.
Kid Rock got caught drinking a Bud Light.
Right, and I think they probably just gave it to him free, and he was just like, whatever, because, like, we know that a lot of these people, like, they do
He was
stuff.
shooting them with freaking machine guns.
You can't pretend like you hate it that much and then be like, fine, if it's the only thing to drink. It's like, nah, bro, you better drink piss first.
Right.
If anybody's got a camera.
Bottle of water.
Yeah, if your wife bought you a pack of Bud Light at home in your privacy, I'd be like, go for it, bro.
It's fucking Kid
Rock.
But
don't do that shit in public.
They couldn't find him a cup to pour it in. It's fucking Kid Rock. They would have been like, I'll go to the store if there was not a cup in sight, a disposable cup or any kind of cup, a freaking Nalgene, something. They would have said, go to the store, get Kid Rock a cup.
That's an actual disgrace. I don't listen to Kid Rock, but now I'm never
neither.
going to.
No, but it you see, fickle people, just like the ladies shopping at Target again.
Well, I just wonder, my expectation is that, this is just for everybody listening. This is one of our last episodes for a while. We might start the show back up later on. I don't know yet how that's going to go. But the whole point of this is that there is a global attempt to silence good things. And if Christians think that they're allowed to play the person who just prays for people,
that's what it means.
Is impossible
Drives
to
me
stand
crazy.
there. Imagine praying for your neighbor while hearing them get raped.
That's what I mean.
Imagine. And then imagine knowing that the Jeffrey Epstein list is not even out.
That's a really good way to put it.
And you
Imagine
think the government's just doing it the right way while you hear them getting raped.
That's a really good way of putting it.
Graped. Sorry.
Graped, yeah.
Like, people are getting so screwed by the government. The other day, somebody posted this picture, and this is what really did it for me. That somebody posted this picture on Facebook. I'm like, what's the first thing you think of when you see this? And it was a big refrigerator, massive refrigerator, just full of groceries, right? Like they walked in Walmart and put one of everything, in their grocery bag. Everything's so colorful and bright or whatever. And they're like, wow, that's definitely that looks like a childhood like fridge. And like all, it's got Trix and it's got Frosted Flakes and it's got Pop-Tarts and it's got, like everything is Sunny D, you name it, it's there, right?
Okay.
And I'm just thinking, and my first thought was slow governmental poisoning. That whole entire fridge is slow governmental poisoning.
Packaged stuff.
Everything, red dye number 40, yellow number 5, blue 1.
Oh, so it wasn't like fruits and vegetables. It was
it was the shit that we're told to eat. You know what I'm saying? What
were the comments saying?
Well, I don't know. I didn't look at those. I was just looking at that and thinking to myself, oh my God, if people just ate this, you're eating such inflammatory food that is terrible for you, that doesn't even need to be made that way, and it's all government sanctioned and told by the FDA and everything that it's totally fine, even if other countries have banned those preservatives and those dyes because of very specific things. And it's like,
feed it to our citizens.
yeah, here we go, just trough, and they're just putting it in all of our food and all of our water and all of our air.
They don't care.
They don't care at all, man. They don't care at all. And it's like, if you don't think that your neighbors around you in this country are getting harmed by the government, I question your reasonableness. I question your actual kindness, and I question your Christian charity, because you don't seem to fucking care when there's a lot on the actual line. You know what I mean? I don't think that you're actually touching the heart of God if you're walking away from it going, I'm not going to help people avoid these massive problems in their life. That's half the reason I talk so much about anything that I talk about, is because if you do what their prescribed method is for associating with life or dealing with life, let's just take a couple examples. Messages that they tell young women, right? What's the primary message that you'll hear in the United States to young women today if you were just force-fed things?
You don't need no man.
You don't need no man.
Career over husband
Career
and
over
family.
husband.
It's fine to be single forever. You can be a boss babe. You don't.
Birth control since middle school.
Birth control forever.
You,
sleep with whoever you want.
Yeah,
whatever.
Suck dick
this
everywhere.
whole system, that whole idea is toxic. For who? Them. In 50 years, them. They will look back and go, oh my God, my life was depleted of value because of something that was given to me as advice. And it feels wrong.
That's it. You know what?
I'm not saying to them, here's the appropriate recipe for what you're looking for in life to some degree. Here's where you get satisfied and you get actual fulfillment.
This is what happens.
And it's like that in every category, though, is what I'm saying. Any category you could get advice. They give you terrible advice, and I feel wrong to not tell you the real advice, the good advice.
Well, I have something for you kind of on the same lines of that. There is a famous, you can find this on YouTube. It's been talked about a few times in the last couple years, especially since Kevin Samuels came on the scene. There is an editor, former editor of Cosmo magazine, that had this whole interview. She wrote a book about it and everything. She converted to Catholicism and is now, you know, walking with God and da-da-da. She had an interview, wrote a book about how she was top editor, top dogs. How all these women were married and happy with kids and everything, but they were putting in the magazine, we purposely told women to not go for men and blah, 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 because they buy more clothes, they'll buy more shoes. If I'm there, a housewife with her kids, she's not trying to buy those Louis Vuitton high heels, but, you know, a Sarah Jessica Parker type would, you know, and we had to sell those, so we'd put fake stories. She laid it all out on the line.
Little do they know, Jessica Simpson moved to the boonies somewhere so she could get away from everything with her family.
I heard about
and
that.
that's what everybody's doing.
Yeah. The Sex and the City girl, I was gonna say, like, I saw something like that. They're actually all, like, you know, married, have nice families, like, they're like the happiest things with the kids, but then they go and portray that kind of lifestyle that they're trying to sell to women and stuff. And it's like, it's one thing to be, like, I get it, you know, actors aren't like their roles, but it's like, this is a specific agenda that they push. Meanwhile, like you said, it's always the women that actually don't hate their lives and such, like, oh no, yeah, I'm married at home with kids, but you should do this. Like,
Right.
And then these dumb 20-something-year-old girls that don't have any experience in the real world yet just take the advice, and then they hate all men around them, and then they realize, I don't know how to change my tire.
Right.
You
or
know,
they
and then they're like,
wake up at 38 and they're like, oh my
shit.
gosh, I'm going to be alone.
Right. I
What
just ruined.
happened?
I see these girls on TikTok all the time now that are just coming out and they're like, I'm sick of it. I don't have the patience for this anymore. Dating's so hard. You know, she's like, some guys are literally taking me out and eating soup for dinner because they're expecting just to go have sex afterwards.
Yeah.
And it's
these dating apps have kind of
easy
ruined
to get.
it.
The girls have ruined it, man. They let the gate down.
I was going to say, the girls, you know, you're the one in mass that, because you talk about empowering and supporting each other in mass.
You control access.
Giving your body, just giving your body to men like this and calling it cool and continuing to do it. But then you're wondering why then that greater population of men are starting to become dogs.
Right.
Because
it works.
You made that, you made that possible.
Showed them how to get into the hole, and they figured out how to do it on repeat. Yeah.
Right.
Well, so but my conviction is that even people in those scenarios, everybody has been given things that are bad for them, and they need actual help with real information in real life. And so that's the whole reason I started doing all this, was because I'm like, I wanted to talk about ways that are actually helpful for you. And one of the things that bugs me is people walking around with masks on, because there is a if you could quantify it.
Did you hear
if
that?
You could quantify
airports are saying a vast increase of people voluntarily putting masks on. I just had to add that.
Crazy.
I know, because everybody is in the comment sections on posts and TikToks and Instagram posts and YouTube and say, no, we're not going to comply. Yeah, they could take it and shove it. Da, 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 blah, blah. And then I turn around and see, reports of a bunch of people voluntarily putting on masks and shit like that. It's
right.
like,
Happy
no,
sheep.
never again.
Is it time to go in the truck again?
Well, then you'll see some people that put, I don't want the mandates, but if I feel sick, I'll walk around the mask. It's like, God. Don't.
Right, you're biffing it. Yeah, well, so like
they don't work.
If you could put quantification or put a number on it, if you could quantify the amount of suffering units that certain things cause you, putting a mask over your face is not a zero. It's not a zero.
No.
There is suffering involved with it. Maybe on a scale of 1 to 10, like if you chopped your finger off, that's like a 70. Like on a scale of like 1 to 100, and like chopping your fingers off is like a 70. Like having serious problems is whatever. I would say making yourself wear a mask is like a 10 to 35% of a suffering amount.
I would say more, because at least the finger, you're not starving your brain of oxygen.
Right. Well, I'm just saying, on just like a base level analysis of it, like you don't get to see people expressions, you don't get facial expressions, you don't get to breathe freely.
What about
you
deaf
don't
people?
What about our IQ of our kids that went down 20 points? I mean, look,
That's
there's a whole point to that. The reason I'm saying this because it's not free. There is suffering attached to it. So you have to look at what it's causing. And that's what I mean by, I think the approach that I'm going to do. Is it
worth it?
Is it worth it? And the approach that I think I'm going to do is I'm going to approach people like that from now. If I see them with the mask, I'm just going to have like a line or two where I go, hey, I work in a very specific industry where I'm responsible for reducing human suffering. Have you heard of that? Yeah, I have. Okay, awesome. Well, some of the ways that like that works is like I'll see people or I'll hear about people that are like living in absolute poverty, and those people, they don't even get to have like fresh air in their house and things like that, and they don't even get this and this and this, and they have to eat these terrible foods with poisons in them. You probably know the government, sometimes the foods are not produced to the highest standards. Have you heard of that kind of thing? Yeah. Well, one of those things is watching people be confused about mask wearing, because it does so much damage to them and they don't even know it. And then slowly explaining all the things that happens, and they're like, well, yeah, I guess that is true. And maybe it'll make them realize that it shouldn't be happening.
But what about the people that are going to say to you, well, this is just my personal choice. I just think it's better because like,
of course. Yeah.
I have immunosuppressant
I always want you to have, everybody deserves free will, but in order to have free will, you have to have the right amount of information. And so far, probably up until this conversation, you thought this was beneficial, I imagine, which is probably why you're doing it, because you don't want to be a bad person. And that makes sense. But now that I'm telling you it's not, you get to freely decide whether you want to, rather than compulsory.
It's mostly to protect me.
Oh, but
I have a daughter at home, and she's 6 months.
That makes sense. A lot of people would think that. A lot of people would.
I don't want to bring anything home to her.
I actually brought this study with me right here. This is the nanoparticle size of the thing that you're concerned about. And this is the size of what the mask actually helps with. And here's an industrial hygienist. Do you know what that is? An industrial hygienist is the person that when an outbreak of something serious happens, they lose their job if they're not able to contain it appropriately. So they're the people that are more qualified than any physician you've seen on TV to explain how things spread.
What about this health coordinator on CNN? She's government employee.
Yeah, that makes sense, but she's not an industrial hygienist, which is the highest certificate you can have.
Isn't a doctor better than?
No, because they don't know how things actually spread. But that's interesting that you asked that question. A lot of people are told that, right?
They're doctors. They had to go to school for 8
Well, here's
years.
Dr. Stephen Petty, bitch. He's the industrial hygienist we're going to listen to for the next 30 minutes.
I think about like
right.
all the excuses that I've seen in comments. Like even people who say, no, I don't want mask mandates, but when my daughter is sick, I'll wear a mask and blah blah, and it's just like, ugh.
Yeah, you bought into 50% of it, and even if you got rid of the other 50%, the fact that you bought into 50% of it makes you a problem. Like the idea that like white people are in evil, like that whole idea. Like, yeah, that's being thrown out in Harvard and stuff now because they were discriminating or whatever, but they already got 50% in. So now people are just like, well, yeah, you're a white male. Of course you're going to think everything's good. And it's just like, dude, oh my God, it's already in your blood. You can't even help it. You
idiot.
No,
everybody thinks that now.
Yeah, but so anyway, I'm thinking of addressing people like that and just being like, hey, have you considered like that maybe that's actually causing harm?
I mean, that's good that, it's good you're going to take the time to do that. I guess
I'm not going to. I'm saying I'm
be.
considering it.
I mean,
yeah,
we should.
The likelihood of it occurring is pretty low. But I am going to get a new camera system that I'm going to wear everywhere and start having some engagements like that because I think it'll be a good show piece or whatever.
That would be. Maui's crazy. Did you hear it? Oh my God, Oprah and The Rock Johnson. Everybody fucking hates them right now. I didn't realize it. I'm happy for the backlash. I am happy. I thought it, because everybody, okay, Jeff.
Is it because they said we pledged $5 million or something and it was going to be like their money?
Yes, before that. Well, yeah, before that. Is anybody with me? Dwayne The Rock Johnson is overrated.
Yeah.
Okay, Jeff.
Yeah, no, for sure. He's just Hollywood man chill. I think he's cool. He's cool, but he doesn't have any. He's not like a. They don't know anything about it. Like his personality's not like a real thing. It's just like a.
Yeah.
He's not even that good of an actor as far as like emotional inflections and stuff. Yeah, like jumping and being an action, sure, whatever. Yeah, but he's Yeah,
I feel like he's cheesy.
Overrated.
Way overrated.
Way overrated. Thank you. I'm glad, but somehow he's close to a billionaire. He's like at 860 million. Probably a little bit more than that because if he hangs out with Kevin Hart is like good with money. He's probably got close to $1 billion. So you got a confirmed billionaire and a possible billionaire asking for donations. They said that they are going to donate $5 million each, and it was You're gonna love this too. You're gonna love this part. So they made this foundation, let's just call it the Maui Fire Foundation for Oprah and Dwayne The Rock Johnson, Maui Fire Foundation. So they said, we're going to put in $5 million, I'm going to put in $5 million, and we want you guys to help us get to blah, blah, blah. I don't know if they gave a goal or anything, to donate to the Maui Fire Foundation. Well, somebody did some research.
The digging.
The digging. God, I love internet people. I love it. Did some digging and found out that the foundation was connected to some like entertainment agency, something like that. So basically, why is this not going just direct? Why isn't this going to a bank in Maui or something? Why is this through this entertainment foundation? What's going on here?
Right.
So yeah, people are pissed. It's
for the down payment on Oprah's Maui beachfront property.
Yeah, 2,000 more acres. Apparently, she has 2,000 acres
in Hawaii,
in Maui, and and she hired. This came out too. She hired private firefighters to help protect her area on Billionaires Row there. Yeah. So
wait, before did she's always had them, or was it like a weird timing, like 9/11 insurance policy type stuff?
Not as pre as you're talking about, but a couple people already knew about the fire. It just they weren't making a big deal out of it like they should have. But that's when she did. I guess maybe she got like some sort of tip, something. But yeah, she hired private firefighters to protect her area. And I imagine the other billionaires there did the same thing. That's why we saw that drone footage of everything else destroyed and the Billionaires Row untouched. It's because they hired private firefighters, which makes me wonder where they get the water. But anyway, if you have enough money, right?
Yeah.
So
I wonder what's going to happen over the next year and a half.
Yeah, they are roasting the F out of Oprah and Dwayne The Rock Johnson.
Like the two richest, probably top 5 richest Hollywood representatives that you could imagine.
Asking us for money.
Like
we were just talking about mortgages for a regular ass house.
Yeah, not a regular ass house. Like I know I'm in an expensive part of the country right now or whatever, but still.
It's crazy. No, you can't live. It should not be like this.
Yeah.
It should not be like this.
Not like this.
Okay? No, and yeah, these people are asking us for money. Us?
Right.
It's like you're already doing your thing. Obviously, like if you were just sending money quietly or whatever, that's one thing. But since you're putting it out there, making a big deal out of it, your gratification is, oh, look at Oprah and Dwayne. They're not just celebrities. They're really people. So you're getting that social currency as if, look at us. We're doing a nice thing. And that's totally fine. I don't care if someone makes a video giving a homeless guy $1 and they film it, whatever. At the end of the day, the guy got the money and it's fine. But if you're doing that act and you're getting the social currency, but you're also asking people to fund it, like you don't get all of those things at once. Like, and then if you tie in what you said about what actually is going on with it's weird. It's just too many things for you to get any credit for that. Like,
that's a good point. That's a really good point, Jeff.
Yeah, it's sad.
I agree. And the thing is, man, I think you're right. They're doing it more for a currency of attention. The thing is that I think people, the American public, are tired of it and they see through that. 10 years
I hope
ago,
the American public see everything, but I just don't know that it's going to matter on the next vote.
Well, 10 years ago, people would be like, oh my God, she's donating. Isn't she an angel? It was very that. And movie stars have done that. But do you notice the last couple years, people been calling them out?
Oh, everybody.
Meghan Markle.
I mean, there's a reason everybody gets their comments turned off now because
when they try to put up a post.
You get roasted, bro. And too many people are looking at things. They ruined everybody with the internet. We have access to information now, which I imagine they'll shut down eventually.
Yeah.
Apparently, Google just came up with their own fact check system too, and they're not going to allow for independent media searches to some degree.
I didn't know that. Wow.
Yeah.
Well,
wow is right.
Yeah.
Wow is right.
See, well, while we can get the information, I guess we go ahead and get it. But I think it's good because
Twitter
I think
has to do is launch a search browser.
I know. Oh, that'd be so amazing.
Come on, but
it was basically shut down for a few years, like in effect, and now all we have, since we have Elon and Twitter now it's kind of basically open again. But like if we didn't have Elon and Twitter, it would essentially be a closed system because remember that couple of years you couldn't find shit.
That is very true. Very
true. You had to really dig.
That's like one of the reasons why I stopped donating to the GOP. Because when we had all three branches, what did they do?
Right, they did nothing.
They did nothing. They could have reformed Section 230? Yes, that should have been fixed. Conservatives, famous ones even, were already complaining about censorship. You should have looked into that while you had the power. You could have changed that. They did nothing.
Dude, if Trump gets back in, he better clean house, man.
I don't know. I have no faith in the other Republicans. He can't do it on his own. Like, that is one of the number one things why I stopped donating to the GOP.
I hear you, but I don't know what's going to come down the pipe, man. I
don't know either.
It's got to, like, we have to go 100 miles an hour as soon as we can.
Yep. I think that, hey, for people like us, and hopefully other people will find God, like, read your Bible and keep your prayers.
Work hard, stay focused. Try to tell everybody the truth as best you can and prevent human suffering that's needless.
Exactly. That's all we can do, and to try to keep the worry of the stuff that we talk about to a minimum. It's good to be aware, but worry to the point where it's burdening you. There's someone up there that has got it all. That's for him. He's got it all planned out.
You deal
It's
with the big picture.
Right. It's uncomfortable, but
But it's not uncommon either. Every other country in the history of the world has had corruption. This isn't new.
Right, exactly.
So relax.
Exactly. I mean, look what happened with JFK. They literally murked that guy.
Yeah.
That was our government.
And
that
nobody
murked
cares.
That guy. Yeah, and we're just all acting like, oh, really?
We thought it was them. That's so good. Are you guys coming to supper?
Yeah, but what about the aliens again? It's like, wait a minute. A whole president was murked by our own government. Yeah, so.
Guys, thanks so much for tuning in for the last year we've been putting this thing together. Thank you, Tina, for doing it with me for a whole freaking year. It was good to pour all the time into it and to basically learn how a show really works. You know, it's going to be good information for the next 30 years for me, probably.
Yeah.
And much love to you guys, the faithful few that are following and watching still. And get ready for more stuff in the future. There's more things coming. More things coming for Tina, I'm sure.
Hopefully.
Tina da Chube. And anyway, loved you guys hanging out with us this whole time. And you can catch us on Instagram still. And as long as we're not in Instagram jail. But anyway, you want to say anything, Teen?
No. See you guys next Tuesday.